Welcome to the podcast that explores mysterious disappearances, bizarre worldly occurrences, strange phenomenon, and basically everything that's weird. Welcome to the podcast, everything that's weird. We're your host. I'm Anthony, and this is Brandon. And tonight, we're talking about the Giant of Kandahar.
The Ginger Giant.
The Ginger Giant. There's Shane Gillis. Do you know who he is?
Yeah.
He talks about George Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, a lot of people don't know George Washington had red hair. And he's like, and a lot of people thought he had like wooden teeth, but in actuality, he's like, I went to the museum and it was like a combination of wood teeth, donkey teeth, and lead teeth.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, no wonder we won, the Revolutionary War. We have a 6'4" giant with red hair and donkey teeth.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, make me pay taxes.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh shit, it's George.
You know what's funny about that too is that they said that, like, I heard that George Washington was actually like a quiet man, that you had to, like, people would have to lean in to hear him because he wouldn't speak up.
Really?
Yeah, like he was just like a quiet, like his voice, he was really subdued, and when he was in public. And then it was a completely different deal when he was on the battlefield.
It's funny.
Yeah.
So this story is pretty crazy. I came across it I don't know, maybe like 6 months ago.
I just when you said it, that was the first time I'd heard of it.
Oh really? So
but here's the thing is, I think somebody was looking it up on this computer because all the stuff was purple when I was looking stuff up.
Oh really?
Yeah, I think Rachel might have been that.
Yeah, right. So okay, so just to start, this story is told firsthand on a YouTube video.
Mm-hmm.
With
but
a
he got
soldier.
removed, right?
Yeah, but it's back. There's another one that's back up that has like he's blacked out and his voice is covered.
Okay, yeah, because he went as Mr. K. Is that right?
Right, and then there's a bunch of like secondhand stories that are told by people that were out drinking, military guys.
Yeah.
And they got told this story.
Yeah.
Okay, so here it is. The Soviet Union had a base in Afghanistan, and it was called Orgun. It's spelled Orgun.
Mm-hmm.
And it was set in the base of these mountains, like in a valley. And the mountains surrounded everything, so you kind of had to like drop in if you were landing a plane there.
Yeah.
And so this guy was flying a cargo plane into this base. And he said that, so I've heard it from two perspectives. This one is this pilot who said he flew in and they're like, yeah, this is classified. And he said anytime they had something that was classified, he said we couldn't help it. We had to peek and see like what the deal was,
Yeah.
So he said they loaded this thing onto their plane, and I don't know what model plane it is, but it's the big one that can carry like tanks or whatever. And it was on a pallet, and he said it smelled horribly. And he said they like peeked under the cover, and it looked like a man laying in fetal position. And he said, I couldn't tell because of how he was laying, exactly how tall he was. He's like, but I could tell you that he was every bit of like 13 or 14 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
And we put our feet next to his, and they were like 4 times as big as our feet. So he goes on to say, like, the story that he heard, and that's going to go into the story that's like the first-hand account. So the first-hand account is that there was a unit that was doing like reconnaissance, I guess, or like their rounds or whatever.
Yeah.
And they had gotten word from like an Afghan in a tribe. It was like lost in translation. What he said was there's a big guy up there. And in translation, and what they thought was there was like a high level like insurgent, like somebody that they could go after, you know, that was they were fighting against. So they sent like a unit up there. The unit gets up there, and when they're there, they see this cave, and they're like, okay, this is weird. But there's all these like bones outside of the cave.
Of course.
Right. And so when they go in the cave, this guy Dan, they just gave his first name.
Yeah.
Goes to go in the cave, and immediately they said this giant comes out and stabs Dan with a giant spear, right?
Yeah.
So that's it. That's all they hear from that unit. Well, they go back with another unit because they're like, there's this missing unit in the mountains and we can't get a hold of them. And they're like, okay, well, that could be a couple different things. Because like, if you've ever seen the mountains in Afghanistan, it's the end of the world. Like,
it's a lot of nothing.
Oh my God, right? And there's so many places to get lost, and like there's no cell service. Satellite phones don't work sometimes.
Yeah.
Like it's really, really challenging like terrain. So they're going after these guys, and they come across the same thing, and they see a lost. They see a comm system, like a communication system, laying on the ground. And apparently in the military, that's a huge deal. Like if you're in control of the radio and the communications, they literally tell you how to blow it up so that it doesn't get into enemy hands.
Right.
And it's like a vital part of like, you know, maneuvering and getting people in place and whatever, which, you know, right. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're investigating this, and again, this giant comes out, and this guy's like, you know, it was almost like muscle memory. We all just kind of like went right into like training mode, and somebody's like, shoot him in the face. So they, which is so
coming
American.
Right for us.
the most American thing to say.
Yeah.
And of course, they just start shooting this guy, giant.
Yeah, it said, what was it, 30 seconds of sustained fire from multiple M4s, and they had a
50, right?
They had a M107 Barrett 50 cal.
God damn it. So, like, it takes them a full 30 seconds of, like, straight fire to drop.
Yeah.
And when they drop, they're, like, floored. They're like, holy shit. He's got red hair, red beard, 6 fingers, 6 toes, a double set of teeth, and he's giant, right?
And a man named Inigo Montoya looking for him.
Yeah, right. You killed my father. Prepare to die. So they bring a helicopter, and they put him in a cargo net. They take him down, put him on the pallet.
Yeah, they got to use a Chinook.
Yeah, the big one, the double blade, right?
Yep, right.
So they put him in the cargo net, take him down, and that's where it meets the other story where the guy sees him go into the plane. So, of course, this sounds ridiculous. But then the more you hear it and the more people tell it, there's several different people that tell this story. And they're all like, they all have a different take on it. Some of the people say this is kind of like common knowledge among military people. Like, okay, man, yeah, they're giants.
Yeah.
which is crazy.
Yeah.
And then some people are like, well, this is more like a Snopes. It's false, and this is,
yeah,
to put a biblical spin on it.
They actually asked Snopes to do to check it out. But I feel like Snopes was just like, we're going to call the government. Hey, did you guys do it? And they were like, no. And then they hung up. Like, that's what it felt like.
Good enough for us.
Sorry, guys. They said no.
Good enough for me.
Obviously, it's false.
So, what's crazy is there's this giant, and we did a giant conspiracy as a show.
Yeah.
I don't know, like 10 back or something.
Yeah.
And we were talking about like the biblical part of it, where like there was Nephilim and whatever, mentioned in the Bible and
it's
stuff.
Hebrew, so I think you got to put a little more phlegm on that. But yeah, that's it. Yeah, there you go, nailed it.
But this is like in this particular one, the tribe that lived up there ended up, they were appeasing it because it had eaten it had eaten their people. Like, there's a whole backstory.
Yeah.
And they were giving it goats and any animals they could to keep it fed, basically. I have obvious questions, like who makes his clothes? Like, that's the very first thing I thought.
Yeah.
But like, this is true. And when the whole story ties in, when they say like, they said there was a big guy up there, with the whole reason they went was because they thought it was like a high level, enemy. Somebody they could get information from. Where's Bin Laden?
The big guy.
The big guy. What it quite literally meant.
Yeah.
The big guy. All right, so we'll do some facts. So here it is. Like, these guys are in Afghanistan. They're pretty high level trained guys. I heard like a few like podcasts that they were Navy SEALs, but are there Navy SEALs in Afghanistan? I don't know. But like, then I heard they were Green Berets, and then I heard they were like a special ops or whatever. Anyway,
there's Navy SEAls there. Yeah.
Okay, so they're a group of like highly trained guys, right? Going on like these missions to go seek out, high level targets to take down basically Osama bin Laden at the time, because this happens in.
Well, if you have a whole patrol go missing, you don't just send fucking Jimmy that just got shipped in,
Exactly. So like, there's conflicting dates too. It's 2002 and 2005 is the two different years that they like post. But basically, the story is, there's a whole missing unit. They send another unit, and this other unit comes in complete contact with a giant.
And at least one of them's name is Dan.
Right. They kill it. They take it, and then they put it on a cargo plane. And the last thing the pilot says is, "I don't know where they took it. Last thing I heard was right, Pat."
Of course.
So we're from.
I heard 1,100 pounds.
Right. Well, it would have to be if it's like 13 feet tall. I mean, like. So it's this giant person with a double set of teeth, 6 fingers, six toes, wears a size 70 shoe.
Yeah.
Like, big guy.
Quadruple E.
And the people around the story are kind of like, yeah, man, I mean, that's part of the deal with being in Afghanistan.
Yeah. That's funny. Because I did hear that. There were several people that were just kind of like, yeah, there's giants out there, man. They shoot high, aim high.
Yeah, right, exactly.
They did say
that.
Right.
It's like, why would we aim any higher than the head?
They were like, aim for the head and then a little bit higher.
Yeah, right.
Get that good, clean center mass.
All right, so let's throw some facts out there.
All right.
Okay, so first of all, the base does exist.
Yeah.
So it was an actual base.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first thing, and we did take it over. Now there's a little bit of a conflicting timeline, but like I think everybody remembers, 9/11 was the end of 2001, and pretty much 2002.
Mm-hmm.
We went to war. Like, it wasn't war immediately, so I don't think we were anywhere in 2001. I could be wrong about that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think right around the beginning of 2002, we were organizing to go into Afghanistan and Iraq.
Yeah.
So that kind of checks out. Back to our...
Mostly Iraq, which doesn't check out, but yeah.
Yes.
We're mostly in Iraq for no reason, but yeah.
I agree. There's a few things. So they said he had a skewer type of thing that he killed Dan with.
Yeah.
So they actually found one.
Lieutenant Dan. Yeah.
Was he? Are you serious?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was Lieutenant Dan.
I didn't know that. But they found a similar blade in Michigan.
Yeah.
So the reason that's a big deal is because it was like 95% copper. It was bronze. So what is copper? Or what is bronze? It's copper and nickel.
Yeah. Oh, man, you put me on the spot.
Is it silver?
You're making me want to look it up.
Okay. So regardless, the guy during the interview has this thing.
It's primarily copper.
Right.
And then some tin.
Okay. I knew there's another metal. Anyway, so he's holding it and he's like, was it like this? And the guy's like, yeah, it's actually exactly like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now the thing is like, it's so heavy that it's useless for like a normal man.
Right.
So something like this for us, and I mean, you're a big dude.
Yeah.
I'm not small,
Right.
but like, this isn't something we can wield around and like stab people with. It weighs way too much. It takes way too much effort. And so there's that. The other thing is, like, not to throw the biblical thing at it, but the description of this thing is very similar to like the ancient descriptions where we talked about in the giant conspiracy of giants.
Right.
So the 6 fingers, 6 toes is like a thing.
The extra teeth and all that goes along with those stories too.
Right. In my opinion, the way that they killed it seemed to me the way you would kill something like that.
Yeah, like in a movie where you're like,
what the hell?
You're kind of backing up as it's coming forward, and you're just unloading. Yeah.
Right. So against it, there was one person named Dan killed during that time in Afghanistan, and he was killed by an explosion.
So they say,
quote unquote. Obviously,
could have been an explosion of red locks.
Right. We said Snopes said it's false, but I don't always believe Snopes.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes they're upset with what they find because they do that shit where they say stuff like, well, it's partially true. It's like, motherfuckers.
Right. Right.
And in this one, it was even worse. It was just like, I think they were just like, they're like, we called the Department of Defense, and they were told that there was no record of anybody being killed by a giant. And it's like, that's what you did.
What's the Department of Defense going to say?
Well, yeah, right. Yep. Absolutely. That's our 5th giant death this year.
We're actually keeping stats for the VA.
These giants are out of control.
In case they ever want benefits.
They're committing a disproportionate amount of the murder, so they only make up like 0.1% of the population.
The crazy thing is that he smelled really bad, like he never took a shower. Okay, to be fair, it's either hot as balls or cold as hell in Afghanistan, right?
Yeah, right.
It's one or the other. There's
I feel like when I watch movies with that are in that location, I feel like everybody smells.
I agree.
Like when you see even the U.S. soldiers, when you see the war movies and stuff like that.
Yeah,
they're always dirty, dusty, and it's like, they stink.
Hot as balls.
Nobody's taking a shower and it's been hot as balls all day.
Right. Nobody's taking 2 showers a day.
No.
Even if you
see them do that thing with the water where they splash it on their face and blow it off, and that's about it. It's like it's a bunch of stinky people.
It is, right? So.
No offense to Afghan people. I'm talking about being when you're out there in the
exactly.
in the mountains.
In the elements.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go out in Colorado, right.
You're gonna build up a funk if you stay out there. Yeah.
Oh, dude, you watch that Alone?
Yeah, those people stink like hell. They do.
You would have to be. You have to be alone, because if you were with somebody else,
you'd burn their nostrils. I know I would. I'd be like, because they're doing all kinds of stuff out there. That's the real Survivor.
That's a good show. I like
that. That makes you feel like you're not a man.
Yeah,
you watch that, you're like, I'd be dead right there.
I agree. And okay, so the other thing about this story is that we sort of touched on it before, but this terrain will they not only they fight us off, because I mean, honestly, it came down to money. We probably could have kept fighting.
Yeah.
But it came down to money. Everybody's we left them behind, and I know there was really no way to leave. You just have to leave. They probably could have done a better job evacuating people, but I haven't heard any horror stories where people are still there.
Yeah.
So I think the Taliban let everybody go to get their country back. Their country, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But I think the Russians couldn't do anything there. And I think with us, we had a hard time.
Russia went after him for 10 years.
Yeah, and how long were we
Straight
there?
Hammered on him.
How long were we there?
I don't remember. It was a long time. It was longer than that. But they were doing a full out war on them for 10 years.
Yeah, we did strategic.
Yeah, it was kind of different.
But what they were saying is there's so many mountain ranges.
Yeah.
And there's so many cave systems.
And they know them well.
And
It's their backyard.
Right, and they just, they head to the mountains.
Just like Vietnam.
Yeah, right, exactly. They head to the mountains, and it's like there's, they just laid low, basically, while we tried to go after them. I will say we did take out, like, that whole deck of cards that they were passing out back in the day.
I remember that.
Yeah, we did take all those guys out, but it just bred a whole nother group of guys.
Yeah, it makes people angrier. Those people had kids. Those kids got angry.
Totally. And
it's backstories. They all got the Ethan Phillips backstory.
So, like, it's plausible that these guys go out and they're, they lost a unit. That's like a real thing. And they would have to send like a whole other unit out there.
For me, it's very plausible that they would lie to the people back home and tell them that they died in a bomb.
They did it. They did it with Pat Tillman, the football player. They said he was shot in the line of duty and defending his country, and not even the same thing. Like his friendly fire, and he got shot by somebody in the military. Like, so much so that they like asked to take the statue down and the whole thing. It's just, I think when it's a military operation, you kind of gotta rally the troops. It's like you gotta keep people on board, because especially after Vietnam, you don't need people saying we don't need to be there. Right. That does nothing to help the cause, whether or not that's a righteous cause or not.
Right. You gotta rally the troops.
But you gotta rally the troops. But like, the other thing with this story is like, I don't know, I saw like 6 different YouTube videos where they all said the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the exact same story. Not like
it's being regurgitated. Yeah.
Okay. That's one way to say it. Or it happened. And that's how it happened.
Well, I mean, from the people that weren't part of it telling the story, not the people that were there, or we were claimed to be there. You know what I mean? That's different. I'm just talking about like people that, when I was doing research on it, you get the same story over and over again from people that are telling it like we are.
Yes.
But yeah, from the people that are claiming, nothing's really changed too much about the story. It's the people that outside that have embellished on the story, from what I heard. A couple people, like you said, the pilot and the original guy, have a story, and then a few people came along, like you said, that are drinking in a bar and heard the story, and I think that it went from 13 feet to 15 feet, and add some digits and stuff like that. So, who knows?
Right. Here's some crazy. The median age in Afghanistan is 17 years. That's terrible. That means like the majority of the men are dying.
I can tell you this: the average height in Afghanistan for men,
tall?
5'6".
Really? I was gonna say higher. I was gonna say taller.
I thought so too. Nope, 5'6".
Huh. I was thinking, because Osama bin Laden's like, he was 6'5", right?
He was a tall guy, yeah.
Yeah.
But that threw me off too.
He's a Saudi though, isn't he?
Originally, I think so. I think you're right.
Yeah. Yeah, but this one, I really like this story just because it has everything that we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I said, it's very, like, all these people that tell the story, they tell it exactly the same. They, and like you said, there's these little caveats that people are like, aim high, like the head or higher. They're like, well, why
Yeah.
don't we aim higher? And then they get there and they're like, oh.
Oh yeah, I see.
And they were told from that point on, this was like a thing. And some of the guys are like, everybody needs to know this. This is something everybody should know.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's part of our world, and why do we not know it? What else?
So I don't know. I mean, there is the all the things as he's described. The giant is described, like the 6 fingers. There's a condition, polydactyly, where you get extra digits.
Right.
That's a thing. Hyperdontia, having extra teeth. That's a thing.
Okay.
We know from other podcasts that there's giantism, where you get your pituitary glands getting pushed on by a tumor, and it tricks your brain into producing more hormones, growth hormones, because it thinks you need more space, so you become there. So there's giantism.
So real quick, there was a guy that was a dwarf. He was born a dwarf, and they did some kind of procedure on him, and it messed with his pituitary gland, and he ended up being 8 foot tall.
Jesus.
Yeah, and he's the only person to ever be a dwarf and 8 foot tall, and a giant.
Yeah.
Robert Wadlow was almost 9 feet tall.
Right. That's insane.
That is insane. So those are real people, and if you see like videos of them, they have actual movies, like motion pictures, and he is every bit of almost 9 feet tall.
Yeah, and he looks enormous
compared to,
like, and even if you go to Gatlinburg to the you can go to the whatchamacallit museum.
Ripley's.
Believe it or not, museum, the Ripley's Museum. And out front, you can stand next to the recreation of Robert Wadlow. I think I got a picture with it. It's insane. Right. It's insane how tall he is. That's 9 feet. That's not
another
13.
4 feet taller.
That's somebody else standing on Robert Wadlow's head.
Right.
That's insanely big. So, and not just tall, like Robert Wadlow was, for his height, he was a relatively thin man, you know. So a 13 foot tall, weighing 1,100 pounds, you're a fucking big dude. You know what I mean?
Like, there's a picture of Kevin Hart with The Rock, standing next to Shaq, standing next to Yao Ming.
Yeah. And
they each dwarf the other one.
Right.
Like, Kevin Hart just looks like a little kid compared to The Rock.
And The Rock, a little kid next to anybody.
But The Rock looks like a little kid next to Shaq. And Shaq looks like Yao Ming's little brother. You know. So
same thing with the dude that played the Mountain on Game of Thrones.
Exactly.
He took a pic. I think there was a picture with him next to The Rock, and he makes The Rock look like a little teeny guy.
Right. Apparently, too, they were all made to sign NDAs, like non-disclosures.
Yeah.
I thought that goes without saying in the military.
Am
I wrong?
I mean, if it's classified, it's classified, but...
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know that you would...
I thought it was just if it was classified, it's classified. You wouldn't be signing NDAs, but maybe you do. I don't know.
I don't know
military.
That either. Me either.
So...
all right, I mean, I think we hit everything.
I think so. I mean, except for if you wanted, he did get hit. From what the reports say, he got hit with a lot of firepower, like a lot of sustained firepower.
So a 50 cal. But is there anything to compare it to? Like, I guess an elephant.
That's a
So like,
that's a tank killer, man. That Barrett 50 cal is a for real gun. That's anybody that's played Call of Duty knows it's a real gun.
but you also don't know when he died, like, because it's 30 seconds, right?
Yeah.
He probably was dead in the first 5 seconds.
Who knows? Something kept them shooting. I guess maybe fear. I don't know.
Yeah,
I can tell you,
kind of stumbling around.
To be fair, I can tell you this story that my dad told me about Vietnam. They had this little base set up, right? And my dad was out, and he opens fire into the field, and his guys come running up and line up next to him, and they start firing right at where he's firing. And then they hold your fire. They all stop shooting. And they're like, what was it, LT? He was like, fucking snake. I think I got it. And he goes over and he picks it up, and it was a fucking cobra. And,
oh, shit.
Yeah, and he shot. He had like a picture of it where he's like holding it up. They all opened fire on it and sustained fire on the snake. So what you're saying could be true, where it died in the first 5 seconds, and
right.
And they were just like, woo, America,
I love shoot it in the face.
Yeah.
Because that is us. That is how we roll.
Yeah.
When he's like, the guy's like, it was just muscle memory, and somebody yelled out, shoot it in the face. I'm like, of course they did.
It's too many teeth. It's unnatural.
I will say this: my brother he calls it his mini mandible. He has another set of teeth under his, and I've seen it. I'm not just talking shit.
Yeah.
Under his.
I've known a few people with extra teeth.
Yeah, but he's got like a full-on set of a whole other set, and he calls it his mini mandible. And I'm like, what the hell? And he's like, yeah, there's nothing you can do. He's like, there's like a crazy surgery you can have, but like, he's like, like the dentist is like, is it bothering you? Like,
Yeah.
If it's not bothering you, not ruining your life, who cares?
Yeah, somebody we know that his mom drove a bus.
Okay.
And he didn't
really. He does.
Yeah, he had 2 rows of his upper teeth. His bottom teeth fit in between them when he closed his mouth.
Oh my God.
So he had teeth on the outside of his bottom teeth and on the inside of his bottom teeth when he closed.
I remember he had a messed up grill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it was like 2 or 4 that were like right behind his front teeth.
All right. I mean, it was a base. As far as what we know about Giants, all that checks out.
Yep.
Shoot
Past
him
the Giant.
in the face.
Yeah, that checks.
It's us. That's us.
Sounds very American.
The government says no.
Yeah, that sounds spot on too.
It's a ridiculous story.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. So let's see what we think. All right. I go back and forth on this one. Like, obviously, like, the biggest part of me is like, no.
Yeah.
No.
Right off the bat.
Right off the bat. I'm like,
Right
no.
off the bat. The headline made me say no.
But then I start listening to the story. I always think when they black out somebody's face and they distort their voice, that it's a lie.
Yeah.
Immediately.
It feels like one. Because when they're real, you come out right away, right? You're
right,
like a Bob Lazar.
Exactly. But then there was other guys that now there was other guys, I don't know if any of them were firsthand, now that I think about it. But that didn't.
Well, if you think about it like this, if there was like, say there was something big that happened, like there was like some conspiracy that happened in our hometown, right? And the person that they put on camera, they blacked them out, but you knew them personally. You knew who that person, you knew the person, not, you didn't know this was them getting ready to go on TV. I'm saying like, it's a person that you know personally, and they get on the TV and they black them out. How long would it take you to be like, that's fucking so-and-so?
Jim.
You know what I mean?
Jim.
That's fucking Jim. That's Jim fucking talking right there. I swear to God. Look, he's fucking wearing the same sweatshirt he had on fucking 2 days ago. You know, I feel like you get made. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But okay. On the flip side of that, we did grow up in a place that had like a crazy Cold War factory.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they told us everything was fine.
Yeah.
And they hid it from us about what they actually did until there was a problem.
Right.
And I remember them coming to junior high and saying, we don't make nuclear bombs. we make the material that goes into the warheads for nuclear bombs.
Yeah.
And I remember even in like 7th grade being like, yeah, dude, that's a nuclear like that's the same thing. Like,
yeah.
And it's like, we don't make bullets, but we make gunpowder and buckshot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't make babies. I make the stuff that goes inside that makes babies.
So the government lies. They for sure lie.
All the time.
So
sometimes they need to. I get it, but most of the time they don't, and they just do it anyway. Because they're doing something dirty.
That I never thought they were going to catch Osama bin Laden. I really didn't. I used to tell people, like, you ever seen like the mountains?
Yeah.
In Afghanistan, they're never going to catch that guy. They're never
too much money to not get caught though.
And then, but he needed to be stationary. He couldn't be mobile.
Right.
And that's eventually why he got caught. Like, he had to stay in one place. But even then, it took him 5 years. He was, he lived in the neighborhood for like 5 years. And I just read a thing about this. He lived in a place that was like a retirement community. Did you know that?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. So his neighborhood was people that were retired.
Huh.
So there were kids and stuff, and then when they would hit like cricket balls into his like compound, they would pay him like $50 just to like get a new cricket ball. Just get out of here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like that war, I feel like that whole, whatever you want to call that, that whole like conflict, there was a lot of stuff we don't know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with doubtful. It's very hard for me to think that there was a red-haired giant with a red beard that smelled like ass, that took 30 seconds of shots to the face before he dropped. But like, where'd the story come from? What happened? Like, why would that come out of nowhere? And
I think I got a theory on it.
Okay. I'll just finish up. Why would it come out of nowhere? And why would so many people be like, oh yeah, that's a thing in Afghanistan?
Yeah.
There's red-haired giants. Part of the deal. That's why we lost the war. Like, what I mean? So I'm going to say doubtful.
Yeah. All right. I think somebody gave birth to some poor bastard that had a polydactyly hyperdontia and giantism, and they were like, "What the fuck?" And you're like, "You go live in the fucking cave," you know what I mean? They're like embarrassed by him, and
like
he just lived there.
And
he just he fucking.
Hey, you guys.
They fucking bring him up goats and fucking making big clothes and shit, and then they just fucking came across him, and poor bastard didn't know who they were.
Well, the first thing I said, who makes his clothes?
Comes out with it, and you're right. It was like he died in the first 2 bullets, and they just wasted ammo, taxpayer dollars on him.
So it didn't happen at all.
I think it did. I think it happened to some dude they made live in a cave because he was born with all these fucking defects, and they didn't know what to do with him. They were embarrassed.
Well, I mean, they do. There's
and then they found this guy out there, and he was realistically, he was 8.5 feet tall, and he probably weighed about fucking 500 pounds. And
in Michigan, didn't they find
But if you say you shot a giant, a bunch of times, nobody bats a fucking eye. But if you say you shot a big retarded dude, everybody's gonna freak out.
Tribunal, military tribunal.
Yeah. If you're he was just some guy, poor guy, born with some birth defects, and we shot the fuck out of him because we were scared. But if you're he was 13 feet tall and had 2 dicks, I don't know.
Well, I mean, they found they did find a bunch of skeletons in Michigan again that were they were red-haired giants, but they were 7 feet tall, not 13 feet tall. So so I guess the red hair is a recessive gene type of thing.
Yeah, what's up with that?
So the recessive gene would lend more towards your theory that he got the short end of the stick genetically.
Everywhere. All around the board. He ran the gambit.
In science class when you do the squares, he had all the lowercase letters.
Right. Got him. Nailed it.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a little bit more sense. I mean, it's hard to believe to begin with, but if that is the case, I mean, you're in a very tribal area.
Well, to be honest, giantism does funky stuff to you anyway.
It does. Big time.
Not everybody's affected the same way because it causes some parts to grow faster than others sometimes, and he was probably giantism because of where it sits on your optic nerve, your pituitary gland. It sits on your optic nerve, and that's what causes your body to think that it needs to grow to make more space. So most giantism cases, they have poor eyesight.
So
he comes out of the cave, he can't even see.
Right.
He can't talk right because his teeth are all messed up. He's got his barbecue stick, and that's how he cooks his goat every night.
They use barbed wire for his braces,
and they're shoot him in the face. He didn't even get a chance. He didn't even see who was out there. He was I can just imagine he's swinging back and forth, looking around, and he accidentally stabs Dan right through the chest. And they're he killed Dan. Shoot.
He killed Dan. Lieutenant Dan. I mean, everybody that I know that's over...
And he stinks bad because he eats goat.
Yeah, right. I mean, come on. That makes anybody...
He's wearing the skin. Nobody taught him how to skin it properly. It's just the fleshy shit just sitting on him and rotting away.
I have so many questions about that, though, dude. The first thing I thought was, who makes his clothes? Who made the spear?
Yeah. They probably gave it to him. Here's a goat, and here's a stick to barbecue it with. Get back in the cave, Ahmed.
Oh man, because everybody, you're right there. Everybody that's like super tall, they're awkward and they have problems.
Yeah.
The only one that I was that guy that bartended at our bar. He was pretty fluid in his movements. He was pretty smooth.
Yeah.
As far as like moving around, I like saw him play basketball. He shoots like a center. Yeah. And there's like, the guys in the NBA, they're tall. Yeah. And like Yao Ming, I think, was one of the tallest since like, Manute Bol. And that's like a whole tribe, the Manute Bol.
Yeah.
And Yao Ming, like his dad was 7 foot and his mom's 6'10". He was like the Chinese, for lack of a better word, arranged those two to get married.
Yeah.
And Yao Ming, he was pretty fluid in his movements, but he had big guy troubles, feet, whatever. But this isn't that. This is like I want him in the NBA.
Yeah.
All right, so you're no way.
No, I think they. I'm going with. I think they shot some guy who was made to live in a cave wearing goat skins, eating goat, and had extra sets of teeth and fingers, and nobody wanted to look at him. And they sent him up in the hills. The big guys up there, yeah.
Because they said that he was killing people.
Yeah, well, I'd be mad too if they made me live in a cave, wear goat.
Right, and then they were just like appeasing him and giving him food.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. I mean, they make him a big ass spear and be like, "Here, dude, just fucking cook the goat, put it on the fire,
stick it up through the ass and out the mouth, and stick him on the fire." Fucking and like I said, man, he had giantism, so he had bad eyesight. He comes out like all fucking angry, he's scratching his ass and accidentally stabs Dan's. He fucking gets shot in the face, man.
Yeah.
And then they were like, "Oh shit, this is just a big deformed dude."
And they already shot him.
We already shot the fuck out of him. We shot him a lot.
1,100 times.
He is missing limbs.
What about the guys in the plane? It's just like when they said that they measured their feet against him and thought he was,
Yeah, he's probably a big dude.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, like, could you imagine the guy you're talking about, our buddy?
Yeah.
If he was dead under a blanket, curled up in a fetal position, be like, this motherfucker's huge. He's a big dude. His feet are like 4 times the size of mine.
But I actually bought him golf shoes one time at Goodwill. I said, "Dude, do you want a pair of golf shoes?" He's like, "Yeah, absolutely." And they were 20s, and I wear 13s.
Jesus.
What do you don't you wear? What size shoe you wear?
Like 12, 11 and a half, 12.
All right, well, fucking, that's big. So like, I wear 13s. So like, I was like, okay, well, but 20 is considerably. It's a lot bigger.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't just wear his shoes. It's like wearing your dad. It's like wearing your dad's shoes when you're a little kid.
Yeah. It's nowhere near. And you put your foot up next to somebody like that's shoe, and they're big, but they're not like 13 foot tall.
That's true.
And if they shot him up full of holes. He'd have to be messed up under that blanket. That's the thing that gets me, is it's like they didn't say, yeah, he was annihilated.
Right.
I don't know if like anybody that really knows what it would be like for 30 seconds of sustained fire from several M4s and a Barrett 50 cal.
It would be Swiss cheese, right? I mean,
it would be. That's a lot of amp. That's like reloading. You're like, there's people reloading.
Yeah, I never even thought about.
You're
the
just
ammo part of
emptying
it.
clips and fucking changing them out and emptying more clips.
So it didn't happen,
It's
or
a
it
lot.
did happen, or it did happen, and it happened to a
It did
guy
happen. It happened to some poor bastard that was eating goat in the woods. I'm telling you, man.
And
So
it's
cool.
you can't say you took out somebody that was like
No, you
with
can't.
special
Scott,
needs.
you can't. Hey, if you're under 8 foot, it's a fucking murder.
Right?
if it's over 8 foot, you're a giant killer.
Yeah, you can't say
You're a fucking
I took
hero.
out somebody with special needs.
Yeah, fucking he was 13 foot tall. Well, he just broke over the mark. You're a giant killer and not a murderer.
Yep. All right, I'm okay with that. I can sleep tonight. It didn't happen.
Wasn't really a giant, but that somebody did get murdered.
Yep. That makes a lot of sense, actually. All right, so I think we solved it.
I think we solved it.
All right, cool. I'm Anthony.
I'm Brandon.
And this is Everything That's Weird. For show notes and merchandise, go to www.everythingthat'sweird.com. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And be sure to like, subscribe, and review anywhere that you listen to podcasts. Thank you for listening. See you next time.